Hey, I'm not going to debate whether plugins are good or bad. The answer is yes. My suggestion, my position for you here is find the little guys. Find the little companies that are trying to make an 1176 plugin, but they're in their garage or their basement or their bedroom or their dorm room, and pay them $30 or whatever it is, rather than giving your money to these gigantic corporations that are. This isn't about how much plugins cost, because I'm not going to sit here and tell you exactly how much a UAD plugin should cost, but $30 or $10 a month or whatever you pay to UAD is a tiny drop in the bucket that makes them rich. But $30 to this guy over here trying to sell and get his feet and start building plugins is humongous. And we all benefit if we find the little guys doing honest hard work trying to give us an alternative. So support them. So I want to tell a story. 20 years ago, I was lucky enough to make a record with one of my recording heroes. And we're not going to drop names here. We're just going to I'm going to tell you the story, all right? We were both kind of morning people, and this was a place where you would stay at the facility. One morning we went to go get bagels, and it was a dream come true, because here I am sitting eating a bagel with my hero, right? And sometimes you shouldn't meet your heroes, but I've had pretty good luck meeting my heroes. And the topic of conversation ran from, asking all the nerdy questions I had about different records that he'd made that I loved, and which is a whole nother video, because there was a lot of myth or rumor that he's just like, oh no, I didn't do that at all. It was, and the answer was always something so simple and basic. I don't remember how we got to this point, but he said to me, if I was starting today, I would buy, and he named, remember this is 20 some years ago, a Motu 828. And I can remember being like, understanding exactly what he was saying to me, and also feeling like, but I could get that easy. I wanted to hear, you should buy this console and this. He said I would buy an 828 and good microphones. It always stuck with me, because the guys, in my experience, the guys that are doing the coolest work are not the guys who are obsessed over gear. They're the guys that say, if it works, it doesn't have any technical issues, and I got my microphones and the room sounds good and the band sounds good, I'm going to make a good record. Limitations are the best thing for art. And I'm going to stand by that. And I know that art is a subjective thing. There's been plenty of just extravagant, money is no object, cool things made that way, but that is the exception to the rule. And there's a lot more total trash that comes out of people having endless options, limitless budget, so to speak. When you can put plug-in on top of plug-in on top of plug-in on top of plug-in, that is not what the best engineers do. They're going to pick the right mic. They're going to put it in the right place. They're going to have the right instrument and player playing. And if they don't, then maybe they're going to have a little bit of the right EQ, but the least they can get away with. And maybe they'll put compression, but most of the time they don't really need compression. Plug-in company marketing mindset that has been pushed into people who have not questioned the common sense or the they've just not questioned what's been pushed onto them. They accept it and they start operating in this manner. And if you step outside for a minute, you're just like, what are you thinking? That's not logical. Here, let me tell you the story. So I have a friend, good recordist, makes cool music. But they were all wound up because they had gotten these plugins, and they're like, well, I'm limited. I have an 1176 and I have an LA2A, and I'm only going to use the Neve console. And, he was setting up his DAW and limiting himself to, and he was trying to only use the same gear that a certain record that he liked made in a certain studio at a certain point in time. He was going to try and recreate that studio and limit himself to only what was there in that time, right? And I'm like, that's cool, that's fun, I love that idea. Like, what a great fun adventure, right? I'm listening to his stuff and I'm just feeling like, man, it feels a little bit It sounded modern. It did not sound vintage. It did not really sound like what he was trying to do. And so we start talking about it, and every track had the 1176 on it. And the LA2A, or he'd have 4 1176 on one track to try and get it. And I'm like, when they made his favorite record, they had one 1176. So to put it on the kick drum and the snare drum and that they didn't do that. They had to make a decision, and every other thing was tracked without it. And when they were mixing down, they had to pick, where does this go? If you're overdubbing it, okay, you can put it on, if you're doing different takes, but they had to be creative, and they had to be judicious, and they had to be sparing with it, and he had forgotten that, and it was on every track everywhere, and it just made me chuckle, because even when we think we're limiting ourselves, we don't really understand what limits are, or it's just hard. Plugins make it so easy. Less is always more. And when you see a plugin company telling you have all of these choices, is that a good thing? Is one versatile, good sounding piece of gear worth more than 1,000 pieces of it? Right? When every possible, how do you make a decision? Endless tracks, endless plugins, they don't make better records. So that's my position. Tell me I'm wrong.